For over a year he sat there, forgotten, ignored, and unseen. In the farthest corner of the shelter, an elderly German shepherd lay still, too tired to even hope anymore. Bruno had seen it all. Families walking past, always choosing the young, playful pups. His once shiny coat was now thin and dull, his body frail, and his eyes, those deep brown eyes, held nothing but resignation. It seemed like everyone had forgotten him. He had lost hope, and so had everyone else. But one ordinary day, something extraordinary happened. A woman walked into the shelter, and for reasons she couldn't explain, her eyes fell on Bruno. Unlike the others, she didn't pass him by. She didn't look at the energetic puppies or the bouncing puppies begging for attention. No, she knelt down, meeting his tired eyes with a quiet kindness he hadn't felt in months. Her name was Elena, and she wasn't looking for a dog that day. But when she saw Bruno, something inside her heart shifted. She knew this was a dog who wasn't just in need of a home. He needed someone to believe in him again. This is the story of how one woman gave a forgotten dog a second chance, proving that sometimes all it takes is one person to change everything. Welcome to Acts of Kindness Stories. Bruno had been in that shelter for so long, it was as though he had become invisible to everyone around him. Each day, the shelter was alive with excitement. Families coming in, eager to find the perfect dog. The puppies jumped up against the bars, barking excitedly, wagging their tails, trying to capture the attention of every visitor. Young, energetic dogs paraded around, their faces lit with anticipation. But Bruno didn't even lift his head anymore. His fur was thin and patchy, his body frail and weak. The deep brown eyes that once sparkled with life were now dull, resigned. He had learned that no one came for old dogs. No one came for dogs like him. It wasn't hard to see why. He was no longer the playful, energetic German shepherd that families dreamed of adopting. He was an older dog with a cloudy gaze, stiff legs, and a heart that had been broken too many times. The shelter workers tried to make sure Bruno didn't go unnoticed. They posted about him online, they added a sign to his kennel, but the sign, the posts, they were nothing but noise in a sea of puppies and young dogs. Loyal and gentle, just needs a chance, it read, but no one stopped to read. No one cared. Bruno had stopped caring too. He had long since given up hope of being adopted. Every day, families walked past him, sometimes glancing at him for a second, before moving on to the younger dogs. He would watch them go day after day, as one by one, the dogs around him found their homes. Some were adopted quickly, others took a little longer, but Bruno just stayed. And the days turned into weeks, and then months, and then a year. He had been there for over a year, and no one even bothered to see him anymore. And then one day something changed. Elena Foster walked into the shelter, but she wasn't there to adopt a dog. She was just looking, maybe for a dog to volunteer with or simply to see what was available. Her eyes swept over the rows of kennels, the barking dogs, the wagging tails, and yet, she stopped when she reached Bruno's corner. At first, she didn't even realize what had happened. It wasn't as if she had been drawn to Bruno in some magical way. It was just that when she looked at him, something tugged at her heart. She knelt down to his level, meeting his tired, questioning eyes. He didn't react the way the other dogs did. He didn't jump up to greet her. He didn't wag his tail. He didn't even show a hint of excitement. Instead, he just looked at her, quiet, defeated, waiting for nothing. Elena's heart broke. This wasn't just a sad dog. This was a dog who had lost everything. His home, his owner, his purpose, and now he was losing his hope. Elena wasn't sure what made her stay. She had come into the shelter expecting to leave quickly, but when she looked at Bruno, something inside her told her she couldn't walk away. The shelter worker approached, asking if Elena was interested in one of the younger dogs. But Elena didn't even hesitate. She turned to the worker and softly asked about Bruno. The worker hesitated for a moment before explaining. Bruno's been here for over a year now. No one's ever really shown interest in him. People always want the younger dogs, the puppies, the ones who are full of energy. The worker sighed, looking at Bruno, then back at Elena. We've tried everything. We've posted about him online, put his story on flyers, reduced his adoption fee. But no one wants an old dog like him. Elena's heart sank. She knew then that Bruno wasn't just abandoned by his owner, but by the world. He was just waiting silently for someone to notice him. Without thinking, Elena reached her hand through the kennel bars. Bruno didn't move. He didn't look hopeful. His eyes were tired and uncertain. Would she be like the others? Would she touch him for a moment and then walk away? She waited, her fingers just inside the bars, and slowly Bruno's nose twitched. Tentatively, he sniffed her hand, just enough to feel her presence, but then something changed. It was small, but it was a movement, a sign that maybe, just maybe, he was still capable of hope. Elena didn't pull her hand away. She stayed still, waiting for him to make the next move. And then, ever so slowly, Bruno lifted his head just a little bit higher. For the first time in what felt like forever, he looked at her with something that wasn't resignation. It was something new. It was a spark of trust, fragile, but it was there. Elena's heart tightened as she saw that small glimmer of hope. He hadn't given up completely. She stood up slowly, the weight of the moment heavy on her chest. She looked at the shelter worker, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I want to meet him, she said. The worker looked surprised, but there was a hint of disbelief in her eyes. Are you sure? She asked. Bruno doesn't do well outside his kennel. He's never been able to go on walks. He's so weak, he can hardly stand sometimes. But Elena didn't back down. I'm sure, she said, and with that, the worker slowly unlocked the kennel door and stepped inside. Bruno didn't move, his body stiff and weak, but there was a faint glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. Slowly, the worker slipped a leash around his neck. Bruno tensed at first, but then he made the slightest movement. He stood. Slowly, carefully, his legs trembling beneath him. But he stood. Elena stayed beside him, her hand gently holding the leash, giving him the space he needed. Bruno took a few shaky steps forward, but then he stopped, his legs too weak to go any further. He didn't trust the world outside his kennel. The shelter worker sighed, but Elena didn't say a word. She just knelt beside Bruno, waiting, watching him with patient eyes. She wasn't going to rush him. Come on, buddy, she whispered softly. Let's go outside. And after what felt like an eternity, Bruno took another step forward. Then another. His legs shook with the effort, but he was moving. He was outside for the first time in months. Elena stayed close to him, watching his every move. The air was different out here, fresh and free. And for the first time in a long time, Bruno sniffed the air. He took a hesitant step forward, then another, each movement slow and deliberate. It wasn't much, but it was a start. He was starting to believe, just a little bit, that maybe the world wasn't done with him yet. As they moved into the shelter's outdoor yard, the worker leaned against the fence, watching in quiet amazement. I've never seen him like this, she said softly. Usually he just stands by the door, waiting to go back inside. But Elena wasn't surprised. She knew that Bruno wasn't just a dog who needed a home. He needed someone to show him that there was still good in the world. She wasn't just rescuing him from a shelter. She was bringing him back to life. She turned to the worker, her voice firm. I want to take him home, she said. I'm sure. The worker gave a small smile, nodding as she began the paperwork. Elena turned back to Bruno, who was still looking at her with those tired, questioning eyes. She crouched down again, meeting his gaze, and for the first time in a long time, Bruno's tail gave a weak, uncertain wag. She gently lifted him into the car. His body frail and weak, but he didn't resist. He simply allowed her to carry him, his deep brown eyes scanning her face as if still trying to understand why this woman was doing this for him. For the first time, Bruno wasn't behind bars. He wasn't in a cold shelter. He wasn't waiting for something that would never come. He was in a car and he was going somewhere. When they arrived at Elena's house, Bruno hesitated at the door. It was a new place, a new beginning. She gently tugged on his leash, coaxing him inside. Bruno took his first step over the threshold, his paws touching soft wood instead of cold concrete. He paused in the doorway, his deep brown eyes scanning the quiet, peaceful space. There was no harsh lighting, no barking dogs, no cold metal. It was a home. Elena stayed back, giving him the space he needed. She knew it would take time for Bruno to feel safe, to trust again, but she was patient. This wasn't just a house for him. This was his second chance at life. Bruno sniffed the air, cautiously moving forward, and then, after a long pause, he did something unexpected. Instead of curling up on the dog bed, he walked over to Elena. Slowly, hesitantly, he rested his head against her leg. For the first time in so long, Bruno wasn't just waiting for something. He was giving. He was offering his trust, and in return, Elena felt the depth of that quiet love. For Bruno, this was home. And for Elena, this was the moment when she knew that her life had changed forever. The German Shepherd no one wanted, until one woman changed his life. Acts of kindness stories. Bruno had been abandoned, forgotten, left behind by his own family, and then ignored by everyone who walked past his cage at the shelter. For over a year, he was invisible to the world, until one woman saw him. One woman who didn't just see an old dog in need of a home, but a soul that had lost all faith in love. And with that, everything changed. Elena didn't just rescue a dog. She gave Bruno his second chance at life. She gave him trust when he had lost it, and she gave him a home when he thought he'd never have one again. Bruno's journey wasn't just about finding a place to stay. It was about rediscovering hope, rediscovering love, and most importantly, rediscovering that he was worthy of both. As Bruno began to trust, his transformation wasn't just physical. His wagging tail, though faint at first, grew stronger. His once broken spirit began to heal, piece by piece, with every moment spent in his new home. And the bond between Bruno and Elena, it grew into something beautiful, something real. Bruno had waited for so long, and Elena, in her kindness and patience, had finally given him the love he'd been waiting for. But here's the thing, Bruno is not alone. There are so many dogs out there like Bruno waiting to be seen. Dogs who have given up hope, dogs who have been passed over, dogs who just need one person to show them they matter. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to think about the Brunos in your community. Maybe there's one waiting at your local shelter, just hoping for someone to give them a chance. If you believe every dog deserves a second chance, consider supporting your local shelters, whether it's through adoption, fostering, or simply sharing their stories. We can all make a difference. Just like Elena, we can all be that one person who changes everything for a dog in need. And together, we can give them the hope they've been waiting for. If you believe in the power of kindness, if you believe every dog deserves to be loved, then leave a like, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness Stories to hear more inspiring stories like Bruno's. We're on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers, and we need your support to make it happen. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. Bruno's story is just one example of the incredible power of compassion. Together, let's make the world a kinder place, one act of kindness at a time. Subscribe now and let's make a difference. Together.